Okay, so I've been thinking and plotting and scheming and all the stuff. One of the things that I've been ruminating over is trying to wrap myself around the world today and what those of us who are, I guess, what they call neurodivergent. We question things. We see all the possibilities. We explore things that are outside of ourselves. Things that, and I'm gonna take my time with this and just bear with me. When I was a kid, I did something. I was in the third grade, and all the homeroom classes would meet up in physical education, PE. We had this big gymnasium, and there were like 4 or 5 homeroom classes that would be in one PE class. We had 2 women that were our PE instructors, and they they were fun. They were good, and looking back, I mean, there's a question there. I know that there were lesbians that lived in our town. There were 2 coaches in my high school. I never really knew them, but there were gay people in my relatively small community in Paris, Texas. But none of us really knew. Like it wasn't out. It wasn't the thing that was a resounding proclamation of their sexuality. The classes in our physical education would line up after gym, and we would all line up, and our homeroom classes would all line up, and we had to be in straight lines. Everybody had to be in a straight line, and whoever's line was the straightest was the most in line and calm and disciplined. Those were the ones that got to go first. I mean, it was like you'll go first if there was some sort of redemption in that. There was some sort of winning in that to go first. I remember one day specifically, I stepped out of line. And I don't know why this stayed with me. I don't know why this moment. Well, no, I do. I do understand why, because it was a lesson that I taught myself. A few days earlier in my homeroom class, someone had said something to me that made me angry. It hurt. I don't know if it hurt. Like it was just like I knew what they were doing. But it was like a picking on. And this was a girl that did this. And I'm not going to go into all the details about that. But it hit me hard. It it outcasted me, or it was a situation where I felt outcast. And so I evaluated, I took inventory, and I remembered that moment, tucked it away, And in that class, I was the smallest. I was one of the smallest kids in my school growing up, all the way through um, high school. But I found my people in the theater, in in high school, and I in choir, show choir. I ran cross country. I was good at those things. Found my people in Boy Scouts and karate. And my mom did a really good job of getting us out there and kind of getting our ADHD filtered out without medication. She did a really good job of seeing us and loving us and putting us out there. But this class, I don't know if you hear the dogs in the background, but there's dogs. This class, this PE class, we all lined up. A few days before, someone had said something to me that I took note of, and I evaluated it. And that person did something else again, and then that person did something else again. And I don't remember if I said anything at the time, probably not, but I knew, and they knew. They knew. And this day in class, I was kind of further back in the line. And this person turned around and yelled at us, "Get in line, get in line, get in line, get in line." And I knew that that was my opportunity to be counterproductive. And so I literally just put my feet out of line as the PE coach was going by. And we didn't get to go first. We didn't get to go second. We didn't get to go third. Eventually, I think I put myself. But this person wanted us to be first. They wanted us to be first to such a degree that, I mean, it was, well, we didn't get to go first because I stepped out of line. I stepped out of line. I did it. I did it deliberately, and I did it poignantly, and I did it vengefully, and I did it out of spite. I didn't care. I didn't care if we went first. I didn't care. But they cared. They really cared. So that was my way of getting back. I felt so guilty after that. I felt so guilty after that. I felt so frustrated with myself because I let someone else's need to be first, need to be right, need to, and in my defense, this person wasn't very nice and said some things that were hurtful, not only to me but others. And usually that's what crosses the line for me, is when another person or another group of people are disenfranchised because of one other person's need to win or need to be perfect or need to be right. And so I stepped out of line, but after that I guess there was some part of me that realized I would never do that again. And it's not because I got in trouble or they even knew. Like, I don't even think they knew that that was the reason. It was quite clever, actually. I just kind of stepped out of line and then stepped back in. But I swore to myself that I was never going to do that again. I was never going to jeopardize the entirety because of how I felt. In fact, I was going to be a contributor to the benefit of everyone and not to destroy something because of how I felt. And that lesson is learned by being in a position of overcoming adversity, overcoming and self-reflection and just because it hurts me doesn't mean I get to sabotage the whole thing. Or just because it hurts someone else that I care about doesn't mean I get to sabotage the whole thing. It means that I get to create a adverse, a another option. I get to create something in the place of that cruelty, um, that measure of competition that only one person can win at all cost, at all costs. And I taught myself that lesson. So, I mean, the point of this story is that the orange dude, that's been his whole life. If he doesn't win, or if he feels threatened, or if he feels like someone's picking on him, then he would take down the entire thing. And those of us who saw this coming, we saw all of this coming. And I don't want to get off on because I'm so fucking tired. And as many of us are, and I know of this dude taking up 10 years of my life. And I that's not a and I'm not coming from a victim point of view. I'm just coming from a place of what could we be creating? What could we be creating right now? I mean, this is the United States, flawed for sure, but I said back in, you know, before Obama, I said there must be a if you're Christian, then it's a repentance of our country. If you're a if you're a philosopher, or a teacher, you'll understand that there must be an acknowledgement of the trespasses of on humanity that this country has bestowed upon the ground inside the DNA of the human experience for centuries. To the Native Americans, the indigenous here, the crimes against humanity, the genocide, and it continues. How the fuck does it continue? Like, we have so much information. We have so many other ways of managing our disputes. A black man gets into office and he wins twice, and he was great. Multiple books, one family, beautiful kids, an amazing, intelligent wife, a leader in her own right. I guarantee you she'd win if she ran. And the reason why I say I guarantee she would win if she ran is because she's she's fierce. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I keep thinking that. I didn't think that when Kamala. I knew that there was a possibility. Unfortunately, I didn't have the conviction that it was a guarantee, and it was primarily because she started walking around with uh, Lindsay with uh, McCain. No, um, Liz Cheney. Anyway, it's so frustrating because I want to talk about art. I want to talk about stories. I want to talk about the human experience without the entrails of the vile disgust of the narcissistic imposition of this vile human being and all the people who, and I'm not talking about the followers. You're caught up in a cult. You're caught up in a something because you don't have the vision and the self accountability and the personal responsibility, and you don't know what is possible because you've been told what to believe by these people, that people like me or black people or immigrants of whatever kind are the fault of your disenfranchisement, meaning that these people are the reason why you don't have prosperity, healthcare, higher wages. And I'm sharing this because there's another possibility, and many people just don't know. They don't know that there's other things out there. And I was thinking in hindsight of the people that the kids that are entering into their 20s like I was, and I moved to New York, and I studied at the actor's studio, off Bank Street, and I started auditioning for off Broadway, and then I ended up moving back to Austin, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and then I moved to New York with a one man show and to be with my partner of the time, and then I moved back to Los Angeles to do a film. And like, I never had the during that time, and I was in New York the 2008 until 2011 when Obama won, and the New York, like, we went out on the balcony and we were just yelling and banging pans. We were so excited. Like, this was vibrancy. This was hope that we had turned a corner, that we had risen above the pettiness and the fear, that we could actually, and that we could get beyond. And then I looked at Obama and I thought, wow, like, this guy is an orator. There's hope. There's, like, look, there's lots of things I could complain about for sure, but this man unified in a way that was antagonistic to any governing system possible. And what I mean by that is that the system in place was antagonistic to him being in that position, but he won our hearts. And there's lots of people out there. Mitch McConnell was one who was hell bent on Obama being a failure. Now, there's many people out there that would say that the left wants Trump to be a failure. No, honey. He was a failure before he got into office. 6 bankruptcies, multiple business failings, a casino. Nobody in New York liked him. It was all contractual. It was all transactional. And the reason why I first of all, I hate talking about it, and we are, and it's also story. It is human behavior. It is the human experience that you must understand. You must begin to question and have critical thought. I mean, it's no joke that they wanted to take critical race theory out because they use that as a weapon, because they don't want you to think critically. Can you not see that? Anyway, okay. So it's Pride Month, and any straight guys out there, I'm going to be doing a reading series on the Velvet Rage. This was a book given to me by someone very special, and I'll go into details about how I came upon the book. And it talks about the gay experience in a way that is, it's specifically toward gay, but it can be an elevation of a person's, you know, understanding of self, and really it's relative to everyone that gets to lay claim to who they are. And if I were straight, I would read it because I would be able to understand how we overcompensate. And each group of people or each person has its own story, and how that person or group of people generally overcompensates for something is based on their willingness to look at themselves. Meaning, overcompensation for a gay man might be making a lot of money, being the best at the art that they're in, or the best doctor, or the best whatever. They fear of their own intimacy can be, if they're not in touch with their intimacy and what their values are and who they are. Learning how to create boundaries, knowing what you want, knowing what you don't want, having a vision for something that's currently outside of yourself, but the imagination, using the imagination, what you want to feel, what you want to feel, and you bring that feeling, you imagine it, relationship, money, um, and then you bring that feeling into your beingness, and then that's what you live moment to moment in. And I will say the sadness, I've been depressed, I've been sad, I've been frustrated with the human experience. I feel like I fell off a timeline. I feel like I was in a trajectory of of phenomenal life experience, and then I feel like I jumped off a timeline and I entered this one. And I think a lot of neurodivergent people who see this way, feel the same way. It just doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense because we question everything. We don't we don't follow blindly to something. And that's how I was when I grew up. I questioned everything. Anyway, I'm sharing that because I'm going to end on this note. And this is what I've been feeling all day. I think that one of the reasons, there's many. I think a lot of us are in shock or have been because it doesn't make any sense. And in a way, it makes sense in a linear perspective. It makes sense in a typical perspective. But when I read history books, I'm like, how, like, now we know what's what humans are capable of. Certainly with the amount of information out there, we won't fall into that again. And here we are. I think that the reason why, and look, I 100%, and this is why the message of joy that Kamala Harris was sharing, the beingness of joy. And I don't fucking care if you don't see it. That's what it was. She was smart AF. Yes, I think she got bad consulting advice. I think the DNC or whoever went in and kind of was like, oh, go, run around with Liz Cheney for a little while. That'll bring over the right, the conservative, right leaning, whatever. Instead of Bernie or AOC, like She might have had a better chance if she'd done rallies with them. I understand the optics. I think the concerts and all that stuff. I get it, and there was a beingness of joy. There was a celebration. There was this awesome opportunity to get a very smart, capable, talented, connected, real. And she would have had like what she would have had to overcome if she'd gotten president, what she would have had to daily deal with, and she dealt with it and dealt with it and dealt with it and got to where she was. But the extra element of adversity that she was going to face. Oh, so it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to those of us who see all the other possibilities and question things. The red that read history and knows story, that saw a man who was all just facade. But you wanted it to be true. And for many, inside of this indoctrination of a savior, you fit right into the mold. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to see it. You just believe me. You just read the book and just believe it no matter what. You just advert your eyes to the evidence before you. And you have never imagined something that lives in the intangible that you've never felt. Maybe never imagined it and then saw it come to fruition, and there it is. You've tangibly created something yourself against all odds. So the one of the main reasons I think why, and this is for women, and I talked to one of my friends tonight, and I think about this person, and I think about my friends that are black, and the stories and the people that I've known that are Hispanic. I mean, I've got stories in Latin and of all nationalities, and they're just amazing people. And like I feel for them, I feel for me, I feel for the people that are falling for this shit. I feel for them too. And so what I have to do is I have to protect myself, and I have to choose when to either speak on it or, and really what's happening is the choice to go in and create something magical, create something beautiful, create something that you've always wanted to create in your life, something, a book or poem, or if you're afraid of public speaking, go and do an open mic night, do karaoke, do, like, bring joy, because our vibration, and this is the other thing, is like our vibration, the vibration of our beingness, and I is what has sourced this. There is a larger collective vibration of low vibration on the emotional scale that exists in the country than I thought there was. I know if the Democrats had ran a white guy again, or if Biden had dropped out and they ran a white guy again, the white guy would have won. I don't think there's any doubt. And that's the saddest thing, because she was capable. Look, I also had my frustrations for sure. I did. I definitely have my frustrations with the Democratic Party. Yes, I do. A lot of them. And okay, this is the thing that I'm gonna land on this, but then I have something else. Okay, so hold on. And yes, I am drinking an old fashioned. The understanding that a very capable, joyful, intelligent Black woman in juxtaposition to a convicted felon. Say what you want. I don't fucking care. Like it doesn't like if you still want to defend this, then I'm not responding. I don't care. Is more it creates in me a more elevated sense of disgust in knowing. But then I think about intention, and I think that this is the most important thing. I think about intention. Intention is important, and yes, take action, but intention. What I think America wanted, the unconscious and conscious intention, and spoken, was to get rid of the corruption, to uncover the deep state, get rid of the pedos and the vile corrupted. That was the intention, right? I mean, all of us agree on that. All of us wanted that. But we saw that in him. We saw that in this group of people, and we saw P25, you know, we saw that. Y'all believed that he had nothing to do with it. He didn't even know. So that's the thing that I can't wrap my heart and my mind around. And I see stupidity, and I see greed, and I see people who do know. They know, and they put themselves into pretzels for whatever reason, power, money. They've got something against them, and I'm very aware, especially now, that it's very difficult, if not impossible, for the most part. And you can pick and choose a few that are not in this category, but there's quite a few people, or, or quite few people, that have been able to accelerate to a position of power that were not bought and sold, compromised in some way. That's why Bernie Sanders was kind of pushed aside twice. That there was an understanding that who we have in office now was 100% transactional. They knew that he would just do whatever the hell he wanted him to, as long as he stayed out of prison, as long as he made money. So it's really difficult for those of us who can see all the possibilities. And then the reason, I mean, 9 million people came out and protested, and it was largely peaceful. I mean, 99% peaceful. Like, I think the few moments that weren't were, you know, they were, I don't even know what they were. I don't think they were manipulated or whatever. But I think that the reason why the Black community, the gay community, the women who are not the pick me's, and the wanting wanting to placate to the patriarchy for whatever reason, because there are plenty. I think the reason why, because we know there's other options. We know there's other possibilities through negotiation and conversation, and but this administration, this right, no matter what. And that was seen on January 6th. And I don't think, I don't know. I mean, it'd be interesting thought to imagine, wouldn't it? If Bernie Sanders got up there and just kind of carbon copied Trump's January 6th speech and just said, "Come to the Capitol. It's going to be wild and it's going to be crazy. And we're going to, like, you can't have a country anymore if you, you imagine Bernie Sanders saying that? You can't, can you? And that's what we're up against. We're up against a group of people that are so fervent, and not only fervent in their conviction and thought of being right, and that now they are maneuvering into the discomfort of understanding, many of them, that they were wrong. And in order, and they could either admit that they were wrong or just tear the whole thing down. So they choose to tear the whole thing down. They could either admit that a strong, intelligent, powerful, inspiring Black man could lead the country for 8 years and win the hearts of a lot of people. And or burn the whole thing down because they don't want to acknowledge that, because they've been told, they've been brainwashed for so long that, women can't do it and Black people can't do it. And the reason why we don't or haven't revolutionized in that way yet is because it doesn't make sense to us. It's not how I live my life. That's not how most of us live our lives, because we're in touch with reality. That there's an emotional quotient, our EQ, that is developed, that we can't be inflamed by our emotions, because the information comes in, we think about it, it creates an emotion, and then we go, what is the reaction that would be most like the most productive? And I think that that's how women function for the most part, a majority. The matriarchal system at play is that it's reason. Say what you will, I don't care. But it's being able to see multiple possibilities at once and taking a action. And I think that the system of matriarchy is the one that needs to be born from this, and it is a must. And I'm not saying that a man isn't supposed to lead a matriarchal system. I'm saying that the matriarchal system in which is cared for everyone, that is creative, that is productive, that is able to manage, that is multifaceted in its observation of strategy, and that the community is brought together to care for the future, for the kids, and for the betterment of everyone. And that is, to me, maternal. And this system that begets someone like the person right now, with all the information out there that you know, so the reason why it hasn't happened, and the reason why is most of us are like, this doesn't make any sense. And I don't need to force anything to happen. I don't need to like fight. It's not that it's like resistance. Like it's like sometimes creation takes it it's like childbirth. Like it's like creation takes the movement, the struggle of pushing forward, right? Like, but that's creation. Like sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's really difficult. But once you're done, there's this lethargy. I'm only saying because I watched, you know, television shows where birth was given, and women, like, there's a divinity. We all have a purpose. We all have a position. We all have a place in this world. A big, tall, masculine, quote unquote. I hate that word, but somebody that's strong and like can embrace and protect, and like I got this, while the 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 divine feminine is managing things and creating things, and like they can trust that the masculine has the space or whatever, but that can also be a woman that has the space. It's we all have our own gift to offer. I'm an artist, I'm a poet, and it's I'm an observer, an interpreter of the human experience. I don't fit into a linear space of like I can't be conformed. Like you put me into that line, put me in that line, and you make me, or you tell me to be a certain way. I'm gonna step out of line, and I think that that's what's occurring. And yeah, okay, all right, we'll see how this goes. I love you all, and that's tonight's recording. Hit that subscribe button. I'm going to grow this channel. These are my thoughts, vocalized, because sometimes I just need to share. I need to deep dive into the human experience with you. Leave a comment if you have questions. Don't be an asshole. I mean, you can be, but I'll either delete you but I'm not responding, because at this point, if you don't see what's happening, then come on, man. You can create something special. You can create something amazing. But you don't know that. You don't know that that's possible. You don't know that you can be best friends with a woman. You can be like compadres with a woman. Like you can share. Like I know so many straight dudes that are just like, I love my wife. And they're the coolest couples, and they're friends, and they're the besties, and they do things with each other, and they're for each other, and etc. It's whatever. Women are awesome. Black women, don't get me started, because they're like multiple times. Anyway, I'm going to tell stories about Latin families that I've known, and Black families uh, that I've known, and my support and love and appreciation, and this is Pride Month. My existence. If someone's existence, just their mere existence, is a threat to your faith, then I'd question your faith, question your strength in your faith, because you cannot eradicate someone's existence just for existing. It's been tried and it never works. And if you don't want to acknowledge or admit that you're wrong to the detriment of an entire civilization, then fuck you. But if you want to know more, subscribe. I'll see y'all on the other side. Ciao.